Okay, so with federalism, that is just how the national government and state government share power. Okay, making sure that one doesn't become too strong or maybe outshining the other, right? And we'll talk about some reserve powers, right, tomorrow and how they are reserved to the state. They're denied to the national government. All right, so number one, let's hear. Assume that an assistant to Governor Wallace, you are asked to write a 2 or 3 sentence statement responding to JFK. What points would you make in such a reply? Madden, what do you have?
President Kennedy, I feel that you are right with your I feel that you are right about your statement against Wallace, even though I am consistent, I'm Congress, everything. I feel that he was in the wrong by not letting me hear.
Okay, so you're saying even as Governor Wallace's secretary, you're contradicting him, right? You're saying that this is not acceptable. All right, all right. So you're going to say to JFK, I'm in full support of what you need to do to end the segregation in Alabama at Alabama University. Wow. Okay, you're gonna get fired for that? You think? What's that? Yeah, sure. But hey, ethics, right? Yeah, good job. Brock, what do you say? Okay. Yeah, that's what I was. I know this is like a weird thing, but go ahead.
I said that to keep the classroom sizes lower, to provide more jobs like citizens, like more like teaching jobs at different schools.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, if you have two different schools, you're going to offer more positions, more jobs, and in that case, maybe better to the economy. But we all know with segregation at that time, a lot of the funding went to the white only school, right? A lot of the materials as well, and it came to a point where this was unequal opportunities, unequal services to the people. All right, good work. Jamie, what do you have for number one? Then we'll move on.
I believe that he should say to Kennedy that
Okay, so you're giving to the freedoms of the states. It's like, hey, if everybody kind of chooses this route of with the segregation of the schools, then that's kind of the route we're going to go. And with Governor Wallace and a lot of the population in Alabama at that time, that was the route, right? Until JFK said, listen, we just can't have this as unequal opportunities for African Americans, minority groups, and this needs to end, right? Again, guys, I don't mean to put you in a hard situation here, but I think it's interesting to talk about, especially with the states' rights position and the national government. Now, let's face it, education is a right of the states, right? So that's kind of why Wallace was kicking back so much. He's like, you know what? No, if we give this power up to the national government, what powers do we really have, right? Good. Two, you're a new employee of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission. How would you answer Governor Wallace's argument that it is better for both races if they attend separate schools? Terrence?
I said that everyone should have an equal opportunity to go to the same school as well. And what happens if one school is better than the other?
Yeah.
Better stuff, but one school compared to the other one.
Yeah, that's the biggest argument, right? Okay, that was obviously one of the main issues, talking points for the Civil Rights Commission. They're like, this is unequal. Okay, obviously the I guess you could say the materials, the teaching qualities, even the funding towards the schools for the facilities, and like I mentioned, the materials, it was so uneven. All right, good job. Jeffrey, what do you have for two?
We will not tolerate such behavior against a human being that is being done by you. They are human beings and deserve a right to an education, same as anyone else. You have no right to decide what is a law, as you are not the Constitution.
Oh, all right. So you're going right to the supremacy clause with this, right? You're saying, listen, you can't take this right away from the people. Okay, this is above the, I guess you could say, the state's right of education. And this is more along the lines of unequal mistreatment of people. Okay, good job. Three, you're a lawyer representing an African American family. How would you answer Governor Wallace's demand that the people should decide the kind of school system they want? Tanner, what do you have for three?
I said that Governor Wallace is partially right in the fact that people should have a right to decide on certain things, but with segregation on education, it kind of goes against the 15th Amendment in a certain way.
Yeah, good job, good job. So yeah, I mean, that's why Wallace was trying to argue so much. I mean, this is the right of the state, but at the same time, totally goes against the fundamentals of our Constitution and just eliminating that equality of the people. Good. And you said the 15th Amendment. Good work. Nice. Number 4, you're a lawyer representing a white family who claim that their child's education is being disrupted by the presence of federal troops. They ask you to sue the federal government to remove the troops. Cite 1 or 2 points you would make in your argument. Chase, what do you have for 4?
I have one point where if like everybody would be treated equally, then there would be no danger. So you wouldn't have these officers needing to be there. And or if everybody would just like follow along and the other kids would go to the other schools, then we wouldn't have to have the officers at one school or another to protect certain kids.
Okay, so you're not saying to remove, like, let's say, solve the issue in a different environment, right, out of that atmosphere. Is that what you're saying? Like solve some of the disputes and issues,
Yeah.
like at a different location? Yeah, because you got to think if you're a student at that time, you're going to be on the news everywhere you walk. I mean, it is disrupting your education. You can't focus on whatever you're trying to learn because this is really why we're still talking about it today, right? This is big news. And yeah, that is something that maybe you can argue against. It's like, hey, maybe we could remove these conflicts, these issues, these talks somewhere else. Right? We can focus this maybe at a courthouse. All right, good. Jeffrey, what do you have for 4?
Our defense deserve a sanctioned and safe environment to learn. With armed forces and people rioting outside the classroom, how can you be expected to learn anything in a class when it's happening meters from his seat?
What solution do you have?
It's unusual to expect a fine young American boy to be so high in classes with such things outside the classroom.
Yeah, look at you getting into this. Yeah, so what would your solution be?
Get the troops out and come up with a solution that both benefits both the current students enrolled at the University of Alabama and those trying to be enrolled in the University of Alabama. For both parties.
Oh, okay. So find a resolution, do it somehow, right? Okay, good. Good. Wow. All right. I like those responses. Pretty good. So again, with federalism, that's one of the biggest issues and arguments with the states and national position. We talked yesterday, even today, there's a lot of conflicts with the states and the national government. What are some examples we talked about yesterday with states and the national government? What conflicts are around today? Madden? Yeah, the vaccine mandate. Good job. Good job. So some states refusing it and saying, you know what? No. Okay, we're not going to mandate this to our people within our sovereignty. Okay, good. So challenging the national government's, I guess you say, recommendations of making this a mandatory vaccine. Good. Jeffrey? Okay, the mask mandates. That's a good one too. Good. Another one, Tanner?
The debate on abortion.
Yeah, abortion. Good work. So Texas, especially. Good job. What's another one? I know we talked about it yesterday. Immigration, right? How the state of Texas is literally trying to build the wall themselves, even though we know the national government, that's their responsibility. And this is something that maybe down the line we might see repercussions at the national level because of this. It's like, wait a minute, this is the national government's responsibility protecting the borders. And immigration obviously falls in that. But with the state of Texas, they're taking it in their own hands. All right, good. Is there anything else? No, I think that's really what we focused on for the most part. Can we think of any other issues emerging at the national level and the challenge in the state government? Brock, do you think of anything? Okay, the budget. So yeah, definitely economics always is faced with state and national level. Good. Tanner?
The new bills on climate change.
Climate change. Yeah, good job. So some states being more accepting of it, pushing for it, and others maybe not so much. Okay, California investing a lot in their infrastructure with charging stations. Okay, New York, same thing. And Florida and Texas, not so much. It's always interesting that those are the 4 states that are always challenging each other and kind of going, maybe challenge the national government or for it. Taylor? Okay, yeah. So racial issues, good job. And a lot of that has to fall in suit with immigration, okay, and what's going on within certain states. Good. All right. Good job. So bell ringer for today. I'm gonna put those grades in while you're working on the bell ringer. So we're all up to date then. If I can find it. There they are. So describe what delegated powers are. Detail 3 subcategories of delegated powers and examples for each. This is what we talked about yesterday in class. All right, so let's go over this real quick. So delegated powers are what? What are delegated powers? Go ahead, Tanner.
Powers basically stated in the Constitution that are granted to the federal government.
Okay, good. So delegated are national powers. So the national government has these powers. And we talked about three branches or subcategories of delegated powers. We first mentioned what? That are specifically stated. Go ahead, Jeff.
The express.
Express. Good job. People also refer to them as enumerated powers. Good job. And what are some examples of express powers?
Rights to declare war, raise an army, forces, establish a post office.
Yeah. Taxes, right? Okay, good. Good job. Good job. So those are the main ones that we mentioned yesterday. They're specifically stated in the Constitution, hence the name expressed or enumerated. And again, a lot of those powers, we're just trying to solve some of the issues with what? What form of government? We mentioned this yesterday, Jeffrey. Well, no. This was supposed to answer some of the issues, weaknesses of what government. Yeah, good job. So that's why they specifically stated. Good. And what else did we talk about yesterday? Madam? Implied powers. Yeah, good job. And what are they?
The minimum wage being established.
Okay, so implied powers are not specifically stated, right? They're not expressed in the Constitution, but it's implied that the national government has these sort of powers. And yeah, you said regulation of labor. And we saw a lot of that, especially towards the industrialization, industrial age in the United States, towards the late 1800s. Okay, setting the minimum wage, fighting for work hours and conditions. Good. What else? What's another example of implied powers? So it fit real well with what we talked about with Governor Wallace and JFK. So with segregation, discrimination of other races, good. So those are implied powers that are described, okay, that are stated, well, not stated, but implied that the national government has these powers. Yeah, that's something what we talked about yesterday. The building of infrastructure in the United States, so highways, bridges, and even more now towards, environmental friendly means of power generation. Good. Okay, and then the last one we talked about yesterday. What other powers did we mention? Nathaniel? The last one, expressed, implied, and what? Inherent, yep. Inherent power, good. And what are some examples of inherent powers? So again, not specifically stated, but national government has these sort of powers. This is mostly focused with the executive branch, executive powers. So what, Chase, go ahead.
The power to control immigration,
Immigration, good job. What else?
acquire territory,
Acquire territory, good job. And have some sort of form of diplomacy with other countries. So reaching out, communication with other countries. So again, mostly focused with the executive, okay, so the president, all right? All right, is there any questions on delegated powers? We're good with that? Okay. So today I just want to talk about a court case, McCulloch versus Maryland, and how that's important when establishing really the supremacy clause, and when the national government, the state governments come in conflict with one another, it really just solves the disputes between the two by referring to the supremacy clause, the Constitution, in certain cases. So here are the terms for today, just two of them. We got the elastic clause, necessary, proper, and McCulloch versus Maryland, 1819. We might already had the elastic clause written down, but in parentheses, just know it's a necessary and proper. All right, so real quick, McCulloch versus Maryland, what was going on here with this court case? Go ahead, Taylor. All right, so what was the debate about, though? I mentioned this yesterday. What was the issue? It really came out with the founding fathers. Thomas Jefferson had a viewpoint of this, and Alexander had a viewpoint of this. And this kind of goes along with the political parties we talked about. So with the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. So what happened here? What happened here? What did Alexander Hamilton want? What did he want to try to establish in the United States to help with some of the debts from the Revolutionary War? Go ahead, Tanner.
National Bank.
The National Bank. Good job. And what did Jefferson say about maybe this national bank? Do you think it was constitutional? He said it wasn't stated in the Constitution, right? So he goes, well, we can't just allow this to happen then. We can't just create this national bank. It's not in the power of the Constitution to allow this to happen. But Hamilton and a lot of the founding fathers agreed that, you know what, we need to have a national bank just because we need to pay back some of these debts and try to control our economy. And this was one of the major issues with this court case. So years went by, and then another war happened. So the War of 1812, you don't hear too much about it. But after the War of 1812, the United States had some other issues with the economy again. And this is where this was brought up. So within the state of Maryland, to try to pay back some of these debts, what do you think the state of Maryland tried to do to this national entity? Tax it, right? So this is what brought this issue up again. So as the state government was trying to tax the national entity of the national bank, the government is like, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. And this caused a whirlwind of some issues that were sparking issues between the two political parties. And Jefferson still argues like, well, we shouldn't allow something that's not specifically stated in the Constitution, really allow this to occur. And the states should have the power to tax the national government, in this case, the national bank. And this really came to a conclusion when they revert back to the article, Article 1 with establishing legislative branch, and 2 and 3, eventually with the 3 branches of government, stating that, you know what, it's not specifically stated, but it's implied that the national government has the capability to obviously create this national bank when it comes to their own economics, right? When it comes to paying back debts, when it comes to trying to control their own economy. So it's not right for the state government to tax this national entity. And that's what brought up this court case where they referred to and they established the necessary and proper clause, the elastic clause, that even though it might not be stated in the Constitution, that these powers of the national government stretch, they're elastic. And it's necessary that the national government has these powers in order to make sure they can pay back some of these debts that they acquire from wartime. And it's not right that the states tax a national entity like that, especially going through some conditions when I'm trying to pay back some of these national debts. All right, so again, kind of referring to some of these issues between the Anti-Federalists and the Federalists. How Jefferson and the Anti-Federalists thought, well, we need to have more power in the states. And Hamilton, with the Federalists, saying, you know what, we need to make sure we have more power with the national government. And this kind of goes along the suit of the Supremacy Clause. Whenever there's a conflict amongst the states and the national government, you refer back to the Constitution. And even though it might not specifically be stated in the Constitution, it's implied that the national government has this power, which, again, is just kind of like, wait a minute, where does this end? And that's where the conflicts still move forward after this court case. It's like, well, what powers, even though they're not stated, even though that they're implied, where does this end, right? Where do the states maybe have the upper hand over the national government? And that was the argument moving with this court case. And that's why it's a lot of times criticized. It's like, wait a minute, where does this end? And that's kind of why Wallace was throwing so much of a fit, even in the 1960s with education. This is a reserve power. The national government should be able to control and deem what's right within our state. Well, again, when it comes to implied powers, national government has that control. All right, is there any questions on McCulloch versus Maryland? You guys good with that? Again, interesting seeing how the states and the national government conflict with one another. But again, making sure these powers are shared and that one power doesn't become too strong. So here's the assignment for today. It's just a Supreme Court case right here, McCulloch versus Maryland. You guys can answer your questions on a separate piece of paper if you like, or, oh, clicked on the wrong one. Or if you want to, you can write it in your notebooks and attach it, that's fine. Whatever you like to do. Or if you can write it on the PDF, go ahead, that's fine too. So here it is. Bam, bam. And this is what it looks like. Okay, just a reading about McCulloch versus Maryland. Here's the questions below, 5 questions. You can do it on a separate piece of paper, Google Doc, whatever you'd like to do. All right, any questions? We know what we're doing? Cool. There you go. Got the rest of class to work on that.